A very warm and special greeting and welcome to you all, to the Antioch community and to prospective students and their parents, to townspeople and to guests. We are so glad you're here. This has been an exciting year for history anniversaries. Most of you are aware of the celebration dating 96 that's done such a fabulous job of making area history come alive. They are scheduled to be at this table with some of their wares, so we hope they find a place to park and will be here. Also, as most of you in the community know, we are celebrating this year the 200th birthday of HoraceMann. And today, most special of all, is the anniversary of his inaugural address. The thing that's special about this year is that it's occurring on the very day and the date as in 1853, October 5th. We, as a historical society, decided early on that we wanted to do something to be part of Celebration 96, and it seemed that this was the most fitting occasion. Antioch said yes, they would work with us, and this is what has come as a result of our collaboration. We have some special people to thank, those who put together this little reading. Walter Rhodes, Becky Eshelman, and Louise Smith have gathered from various sources some of the events in Mann's life while he was at Antioch. Together with some other people that you see before you, Dan Davis, Todd, and Arwen. The last names have to slip for just a while. You'll hear them, and I want to tell you that in listening to them, I'm reminded of HoraceMann on that first cold winter that befell Antioch. Yeah, they were in this building, of course, but there were no closed windows. The doorways were open, and there were no stoves, and snow came early. So he said to them, probably inside of this building, in one of his weekly chapel addresses, that they would have to warm themselves by the energy of their own intellect. So I'm telling you, in that same Victorian optimism, we're asking you to bring your imagination and your interest to these characters, as they have no time to change costume, but they do change personalities, and you'll, I'm sure, follow it all through. And now to welcome you to this lovely occasion for Antioch, a person who I think is one of the best to give us a sense of man and his philosophy and his wonder, and that is the person in education, Hazel Latson.
Thank you, Mary. I'd like to again welcome you to this very special presentation sponsored by the Yellow Springs Historical Society. This is the Society's contribution to the celebration dated 96 on the 200th year of HoraceMann's birth. And as Mary told you, today is Founders Day at Antioch, and it happens to be the very day that HoraceMann gave his inaugural speech. What you are going to see today is little excerpts from this speech with kinds of flashbacks into his life, those parts of his life that pertained to Antioch College. Mann was about to take up a new challenge. After all, he had begun in Massachusetts the beginning of public education, the common school. He had also been very active in the abolitionist movement. He was now coming to this very interesting place in Ohio. He had come to face another challenge, to run a college without adequate budget for its operations. So today you are there. As Mary said, it's very, very cold. There are over 2,000 people out here. There are horses, buggies, and everything that people have this air of expectancy to hear from this new president of the very new college, Antioch.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be doing a series of readings, some from the Testament of Faith that was written by Antioch faculty in the 1930s. It never went to Broadway, but it has had some very recent, interesting revivals. We'll also be reading letters and articles that Nina Myatt has so graciously collected and given to us about HoraceMann, and we've picked Mary Morgan's brain to come up with all of the details of his life and put them into some sort of dramatic order. Finally, we've used our imaginations and tried to flesh out these characters as much as we can. Thank you for coming and sharing this remembrance of things past. You'll probably recognize some of these things as things present as well. But as Hazel said, on this day, 100-something years ago, HoraceMann became the first president of Antioch College. HoraceMann, the former state senator in Massachusetts, founder of the public school system, and the greatest American educator!
I'm a first year. I thought Antioch was founded in Seattle or New Hampshire, someplace like that.
No, 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 no. It's just the other way around. Letter from Mary Mann to her father, Dr. Peabody, from Yellow Springs, Ohio, October 8, 1853.
On the 5th, the inaugural took place, and we had quite a day of it. I assure you, 3,000 people were upon the ground. They arrived the night before in such numbers that they had to sleep in their carriages. At 9:30, people assembled on the ground before the grand entrance, over which was erected a temporary platform from which Mr. Phillips, the prime agent, addressed the crowd.
I am honored today to present this Bible from the Yellow Springs Presbyterian Church, this Bible from the Yellow Springs Baptist Church, and the Bible from the Yellow Springs Christian Church.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. I am deeply grateful. I know they will benefit us well.
Now, there are two things that are important, essential to the success of the college. One is God's blessing, and I think we just assured that. The other is money. As you know, we are offering scholarships to our students and want to continue to do so, but we need your help. Anything you can give will be welcome. Step right up here on this platform, place your money in the hat. Open your pockets so we can fill the minds of young people here in this great state of ours. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Anything you can spare, a nickel, a dime, a quarter.
Bless your hearts. Whatever you can spare, step right up, all are welcome. If you have an extra $500 to build the men's dormitories, we'd greatly appreciate it, but we'll take any 3-cent men.
What about Birch Hall?
Step right up.
Thank you, good people. Thank you, thank you.
Phillips begged money in the most witty and impressive manner, and $600 were taken in immediately. Our college was the expectation on all the faces when Mr. Phillips told that.
Antioch College is destined to be the first and the greatest college in the ancient or modern world. And it is largely due to the individual to whom we have entrusted this profound enterprise, the greatest educator of our times, President HoraceMann.
That was Mr. Phillips. They called him Antioch John because he raised more money than anybody else. The governor of the state was here, and Judge Mills. Mary Mann was on the platform, and so were other wives, not to mention Rebecca Pennell, who came to Antioch with Mann and was probably the first full-fledged professor in the United States.
Pleased to meet you. We plan on making the college fully coeducational. I am dedicated and committed
Thank
to
you, Mr. Phillips. I am deeply honored and humbled to be entrusted with that work of works, the development and training of a human soul. Rear stronger minds, says the lover of light and truth, and they will lift up the race to sublimer heights of dignity and power. In this way, we shall obtain thought-producing instead of thought-repeating men.
And women. Let's not forget about women. I'm sorry, but I am not so impressed with this guy. He seems extremely insensitive. What was his name again?
HoraceMann, the greatest American educator.
But still don't know anything about him.
HoraceMann, born Franklin, Massachusetts, 1796. Father Thomas, mother Rebecca. 4 siblings: Rebecca, Stephen, Lydia, Thomas, who drowned unbaptized when Horace was 13. The pastor said Thomas might already be in eternal torment. Horace never got over it.
What an unspeakable torment a Calvinist education is.
Family life. Vigorous, thrifty, fond of books, interested in social welfare, conscientious church-going. His community was given to much discussion.
Give your harp 1,000 strings to multiply its melodies, and you multiply the capability of producing discords in greater proportion.
Sounds like a community meeting.
Boyhood, long, hard work as a child. Diligence became second nature. Love of books and learning. No bad habits. Never drank, swore, or used tobacco.
All my boyish castles in the air had reference to do something for the benefit of mankind.
Entered Brown University, 1816. Graduated from Brown, 1819. Studied law. Entered practice of law, 1823. Elected to General Court of Massachusetts, 1827.
Look into the marts of business, the halls of government, the framework of social relations. See how avarice overreaches by law, how governments are perverted from the welfare of the governed to the selfish ends of the rulers, how the strong man oppresses his brother, and the strong nation makes war upon the weak one.
President of Massachusetts Senate, 1836. Member of Massachusetts Board of Education, 1837.
Let education, then, teach children this great truth, that God so constituted the world that whatever is really and truly valuable may be possessed by all, and possessed in exhaustless abundance.
Founded the first normal school, 1839.
Well, I think the molding of youthful minds and manners is the noblest work a man or angels can do.
Succeeded John Quincy Adams, deceased in Congress, 46.
I'm beginning to get the picture.
C. HoraceMann's office in Washington. Man is busy at his desk. There is a knock.
Come in, Samuel. Well, how are you doing? What are you doing in Washington?
You think the whole nation should be here, Horace, after what's happened?
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Have you just come from Massachusetts?
Yes.
What are they doing? Sit down, Samuel. By Jove, I'm glad to see you. What are they doing?
Not as much as they ought. The best one can say is that they're stunned. I was stunned myself. Webster.
You see, Webster was running for governor of Massachusetts, and he said...
Webster, yes, Webster, the essence of the North and the essence of the anti-slavery movement. Samuel, I've worshipped him ever since I was a boy. When I'd first heard he'd given that speech, repudiating everything he'd said against slavery, I couldn't believe it. My confidence in Webster was so firm, I actually cheered them up and convinced them it couldn't have happened. But it has happened. Do you mean to say that Massachusetts isn't up in arms?
Well, the best of them are. Emerson is, Lowell is, Parker is, but the Webster machine is the Webster machine. The manufacturers are all behind him, too. What are you going to do, Horace? We're ready to stand behind you.
What I seem to be scheduled for is a hand-to-hand struggle with the most powerful man in the country and the leader of my party in my own state. I'm preparing the speech now.
So he was a politician.
He was an educator and an abolitionist, very dedicated to the movement until...
Nominated for governor of Massachusetts, 1852.
Scene, HoraceMann's home in Massachusetts.
Hello, Mrs. Mann. This is Mr. Henry Wilson, and we have some splendid news for you.
How do you do? What is the splendid news?
When will Mr. Mann be back?
Almost any time. Are you the gentleman from Yellow Springs?
I'm Mr. Fay, this is Mr. Allen, and Mr. Stevens.
How do you do?
Your husband say anything about this college?
Yes, he wrote me about it in a letter from Washington.
A lot of people think we're crazy letting girls in.
Would you enjoy being the wife of a president of a college where girls are allowed?
I'd much prefer such a college to one where they weren't.
How would you enjoy being the wife of the governor of Massachusetts?
Why?
We've just nominated him.
Horace?
Yes.
That is splendid news. These gentlemen have nominated Mr. Mann for position too.
That's so. What?
Presidency of Antioch College. Never heard of it.
Hello, gentlemen. Mr. Stevens, Mr. Fay. Not all of you gentlemen are from Antioch, are you?
No, but these gentlemen from Ohio and ourselves are here for the same thing, and you can't give it to both of us.
What thing is that?
Your services. We're notifying you of your nomination for the governorship of Massachusetts.
Oh, I'm being faced with a rather important decision.
Yes, Horace.
What in the world would they ever pick me for? The party believes I actually have a chance of being elected?
Of course, Mr. Mann. You were re-elected to Congress in the teeth of Webster's opposition.
Mr. Fay, I want to understand the purpose of Antioch College, definitely. You told me in your letter that you plan to be non-sectarian. Is that agreed on by everyone?
Yes.
You also plan to deny no one admittance because of his race, or color, or creed, and to admit women?
Yes.
The president of Antioch College isn't to worry over the finances, is he?
The church will see to all of that.
Gentlemen, I am not interested in the governorship.
President of Antioch College, 1852. Mann's philosophy on education was very simple and quite modern. The student should move from the known to the unknown, from the simple to the complex. In motivation, the student should be self-propelled, eager to learn, eager to expand his horizons at his own speed. The function of the instructor should be to foster motivation, check error, and to give intelligent guidance, not to indoctrinate.
Education addresses itself specially to the young, because the young are always ductile and moldable. While under our present methods of human culture, the hearts of men fossilize with a rapidity and flintiness that have no parallels in natural petrifactions.
In other words, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Here then is a place to sow something better than dragon's teeth, and to reap something better than armed men.
Man did not trust himself or anyone else to indoctrinate others. He wanted to clear away obstructions to free thought.
In all this great West, ours is the only institution of a first-class character which is not directly or indirectly under the influence of the old school theology. And though the mass of people here are more liberal-minded and free-thoughted, more open and receptive and less cast irony than the corresponding classes in the East, yet the ministers are more narrow and bigoted. Our college, therefore, is like breaking a hole in the Chinese wall. It lets in the light of religious civilization where it never shone before.
Man urged the improvement of general conduct and moral habits in his students. He believed that the ordinary pursuit of gaming and drinking dissipated at least 1/4 of the natural vigor and was besides injurious to health, wasteful of time, debasing to morals, and fact to high and noble aspirations.
Everett, how are you going? How are you getting along in the dormitory now that you're in charge?
Except for one unpleasant incident, we've done very nicely.
What unpleasant incident?
When I did what I thought was my duty, but it didn't seem to help matters much.
Let's hear about it. Hello, Silas. Come in, sit down. We're about to hear Everett and how he administers justice to his freshmen.
I'm sorry. I don't think I can sit, sir. I've got to go help after the water. I wanted to tell you that I've had another successful day.
Another day you haven't smoked?
Yes, sir.
Well, come here. Let me shake your hand again. This is the 6th day in a row, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now be sure you don't think tomorrow is a day of rest.
No, sir.
And remember, if you can do this, you can do many other difficult things.
Yes, sir. I think if I last another week, I'll be all right.
That's exactly right. Get your habits working on the easy things, and then tackle the big ones.
Yes, sir. Good night.
We just about have time for your story, Everett.
One day, not long ago, Mr. Fay was crossing the campus. It was during one of those rainy spells we never have in Ohio, and the usual rivers made the usual islands of the usual buildings. Mr. Fay was stepping from what he thought was usual rock to usual rock, as they are set up by the Campus Improvement Association from one building to another at such inclement times. He was approaching the last of these rocks, preparing for a final leap to the safety of his classroom, when suddenly he found himself in a most unusual attitude in the mud. And what he thought was a rock was running squealingly away to join his fellow hogs. Well, it would have been all right if it had stopped with Mr. Fay's tumble, but someone who must have been taking your course in natural theology, Mr. Mann, wrote a very sacrilegious account of it and posted it in the dormitory. At least I thought it was sacrilegious. I took it down and called everyone in the dormitory together, and I'm afraid I got nasty, because there was very bad feelings over what they called my inability to take a joke. My inability to take a joke.
Well, I don't think you have much reason to worry over that either. Perhaps, if we're not afraid to believe God's laws tumbled Mr. Fay into the mud, they won't seem so awful to contemplate, and we'll do more contemplating and more appreciating.
My husband talks to all the naughty ones in silvery, flute-like tones of such rebuke, such as would make flint melt.
The entire discipline of the institution devolves upon me. With such of our young people as need the curbing of propensities and have their energies withdrawn from their present channels and directed into new ones, I spend a great deal of time privately. I cannot get at the heart in social addresses as I can in private appeals. When I have an interview with a reckless or a perverse student and pass into his consciousness and try to make him see mine, I always shed tears. Cannot help it. There is a force in honest tears, not to be found in logic.
All the class, 15 in number, were allowed to speak and were in most loving harmony. They read each other their speeches beforehand, declaiming them together in the woods for mutual criticism, and each seemed as much interested in the success of the others as in his own. They have always indeed been as united as a band of brothers and sisters. Not one of them is an inferior person, and not one of them does not bear a good character.
Daily association with young ladies refines the manners of the young men. And actual association with young men and a knowledge of character and the duties of life have a strong tendency to expel all girlish romance and to exorcise the miserable nonsense which comes from novel reading.
Novel reading?
Mr. Mann is not afraid to grant complete education to women. It is her security against extravagance and all unwomanliness. The girls here, as everywhere, where there is true womanhood, respond first when high principles are presented. And it is the womanly element that has been Mr. Mann's greatest aid in effecting the college reforms he undertook.
And now, I would like to present Rebecca Pennell, the first full woman professor in the United States. Without her help, Antioch would not be what it is.
Thank you, Uncle. But I must tell you that I resign.
Resign? Why?
Oh, where do I start? I'm tired of the accusations of nepotism and the resentment on some people's parts about the fact that you brought family with you. My new husband is being accused of stealing money from the college, and I just don't feel like you've come to his defense very well. And finally, I haven't gotten paid fairly. I was told I'd get the same as everybody else. Well, I haven't seen a penny.
Neither have I, Rebecca.
Now, Mr. Mann, stay calm.
Neither have I. In fact, it's my money that's keeping the college afloat.
Now, wait a minute. That's not exactly true, Horace. We've been fundraising very effectively. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? So how do you like the show so far? Step right up and put some money in the hat. Let's see if we can keep Rebecca here. How about a few nice old houses?
Antioch finances the perpetual storm.
HoraceMann must have sensed that Antioch was near bankruptcy from the very beginning, for during his tenure he gave far more of his own money to the struggling institution than was ever returned to him in salary. By 1857, it was clear to all that financially Antioch was a failure. The college had operated for 4 years on faith, a trickle of funds, a superior student body, a persevering though divided faculty, and the moral leadership of its president. For the first time, with the educational future of hundreds of students on his conscience, Mann forgot all about the motives of the Christian connection and simply labored to save the college.
A new crisis has come to our affairs. The board has met and elected a new board. Antioch College has failed. All its property is assigned for the payment of its debts. The whole scholarship system will be abolished. All the professors, including your humble servant, were decapitated by the old board. The new one, however, did replace the president's head before the flesh and nerves had become wholly cold and lifeless, so that with care they may stick together once more. Now, I want to examine the lay of the land and see whether anything can be done for the college. I feel pretty sure it's worth saving. Now, the question is whether it can be saved. Probably $60,000 would buy it. And I wonder how much of this can be raised in Boston. Our aggregate number has hardly diminished, and in the college, the classes are larger than before. Doesn't this prove that we have some capital stock of reputation, even if we are pecuniarily bankrupt? Recent challenges have gotten me a second childhood, and I have written what by courtesy is called a poem, or more exquisito, a poem, called Where God's Creatures Dwell.
In the spring of 1859, as Antioch's financial prospects worsened and friendships frayed, William Mills expressed his distrust of the college's benefactors in the East, and a duel of letters and articles ensued.
It's monstrous that we have had borne more than our full share of debts and embarrassments of the institution, shall now pay $20,000 in cash, while friends East only propose to loan $30,000 to be collected and returned again. I regret that our efforts have been in vain, but the blow has fallen. I can give the college no more. Sincerely, William Mills.
You disparage the generosity of the proposed donors. It is intended to be an outright gift, paid with a temporary lien. Simply put, if the signers of the Rayburn note living near the college, who are legally liable, will give $20,000, then those who are far removed, educationally independent of the college, and under no liability, will give almost 3 times that amount. Yours very truly, HoraceMann.
I have no confidence whatever in the flattering assurances from the East that they will give $55,000. I am deeply grieved that you see no injustice in calling upon us to give the $20,000, whilst Eastern friends or bankers propose to loan $30,000 to be refunded with principal and interest. Justitia fiat si colum ruat. Sincerely, William Mills.
Mills' generous use of Latin, Greek, and Hebrew to make the points seemed to annoy Mann.
I am sorry to observe that Mr. Mills' Latin is quite as unfortunate as his Hebrew and Greek. His interpolation of one word and his transposition of 2 others in the Latin proverb he quotes make it most obviously signify, let justice be done, provided, or on condition, that the Helen falls. If it don't fall, then, of course, it's no matter.
Onward, Christian soldiers.
Even as man contended valiantly with Antioch's financial adversity, he found himself increasingly at odds with the Christian Connection Church, who withdrew financial support, citing theological differences and a failure on man's part to appreciate their educational ideals.
What is your belief about the Trinity?
That's Mr. Allen from the Christian Church.
I understood this was to be a financial discussion.
Not exactly. The Christian Church has come to the place where it feels that before continuing its support of the college, it must know how you feel about certain of its doctrines.
Mr. Burgess.
I'm sure the church can see it through somehow if it's given the right kind of assurance.
The right kind of assurance about what?
What are your views concerning the Trinity?
As everyone here knows, I do not believe in the Trinity.
But the Christian Church does. And it's the Christian Church who supports your asking.
You speak as if I personally were asking you for this support. Let me remind you that the Christian Church started this college. It has the responsibility to support it.
Not when their only connection with it seems to be a financial one.
Well, I think their connection should be the one originally planned. Originally, Mr. Stebbins, the Christian Church had an ideal in founding Antioch. The ideal was to furnish young people the best in education. The best, as they agreed explicitly, was non-sectarian. I have maintained that ideal. And those of your church who are sincere in wanting it take a great deal of satisfaction in that.
Well, those in the church who sincerely believe in the church and believe in the Trinity can scarcely relish the thought that their children are being instructed by those who don't believe in it.
Before I came here, Mr. Allen, I informed the Christian Church verbally and in writing about my attitude toward the Trinity. They did not object to it then. Why are they objecting to it now?
Well, another thing people object to, whether you believe it in the Trinity or not, the college has never had any religious revivals.
Naturally! That's because of the serious and thoughtful character of the students on religious aspects. Take a set of drinking, gambling, swearing, blaspheming, and godless people, come upon them suddenly, and make them see their awful condition, and they'll be frightened into as vehement demonstration as they'd had before in their revelings. To our students, the ideas of their duties and their destiny are familiar. They can't be frightened, and they can't be come upon suddenly.
They do it in other colleges.
One of the reasons for setting up this college was that the other colleges could be greatly improved upon.
I'd like to ask whether the religious teaching at the college don't tend to make the students live pure and virtuous lives and do good to their fellow men, rather than to love God through faith in Jesus Christ as applied by the Holy Spirit?
I don't think I understand you.
I'm asking you whether you don't teach the students to lead pure and virtuous lives and do good to their fellow men, rather than to love God.
Well, can anything in punch beat that?
I think Mr. Mann has made his attitude sufficiently clear. Mr. Chairman, I move that the Christian Church no longer support Antioch College and that it be sold at auction to meet its obligations.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Now that I have replied to inquiries, I should like to add on my own account that the old inquisitorial torture does not differ one whit in kind, but only in degree. If a man can be held to answer questions in religious matters under penalty of loss, whether it's money or character or opinion. If you expected me to repeat your religious hick-hike-hoke after you have learned I am not for sale. I had learned from books, and I was told when I came here that the Christian Church looked at life, not at creeds. But when I arrived, I found I was never among a more sectarian people in my life than many of you.
Let's vote.
After no further discussion, it was moved, seconded, and voted that the Christian church no longer support Antioch College and that it be sold. On April 20th, 1859, the auction was held in Cincinnati. The building, furniture, and all the equipment and land were to be sold. Adding to the suspense that day were the Presbyterians, who, having delayed building a college of their own, were thought to be ready to outbid all parties.
Before opening the bidding, I want you to take a look at what I have here. These magnificent buildings have been used for a college, but there's no reason why they can't be used for something else. How do you do, Mr. Olson? I'm glad to see you.
Just here to look.
Imagine how easy it would be to convert these buildings into a hospital. And you, gentlemen, wouldn't have to convert it at all, would you? I thought that the Presbyterians would be wise to see what happened to the college before going to the expense of building one of their own.
Good afternoon. Is Mr. HoraceMann? I understand the bidding must open at $40,000. Mr. Palmer has empowered me to do that. The rest depends upon you.
The Presbyterians are here. They'll never stop at that. They started to build a school last year, but hearing we were in difficulties, they decided to wait.
That looks bad.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I have been empowered by the trustees of Antioch College to offer at auction this afternoon their building, real estate, furniture, and all other possessions as described in the folder which I have distributed. The content of sale guarantees that these possessions are exactly as represented in this folder. Those of you who have seen the grounds and the buildings know that I am not misinterpreting when I say the buildings are new buildings, more modern than anything in Ohio, and that they're good buildings, of sound timber and brick, and that they're beautiful buildings. Mr. HoraceMann, the great educator, has testified to their beauty, particularly to the beauty of the towers of the main building, which he saw draw the eye and heart aspiringly to the sky. You know I'm not misrepresenting them either when I talk about the charm and the promise of the little village of Yellow Springs. We all know, we hear every day, of its increasingly popularity as a health resort. Any number of people have come to it from the east, weary and sick, and have found new vitality and health there. What an excellent opportunity you have here this afternoon. The bidding on the complete possessions of Antioch College must begin at $40,000. That, of course, is an absurd figure. These possessions are assessed, gentlemen, that's $80,000. Do I hear an opening bid at the assessed value? $80,000. Do I hear $80,000? Dr. Olson, will you accommodate me my mentioning $80,000 just to get things started? Oh, come. It isn't going to go that far. I just want to get started.
I'm not interested.
$75,000 just for a starter. $75,000. $75,000.
$40,000.
Do I hear $75,000? For $75,000, gentlemen, you can get $200,000 worth of property. Will anyone start the bidding on this $200,000 property for $75,000? This gentleman has offered $40,000 for $200,000 worth of property, 1/5 its value. Will someone offer $75,000? Do I hear $70,000 for $200,000 worth of property? Doctor.
I said I'm just here to listen.
Do I hear $70,000 for a new Presbyterian college? You've had estimates of the cost to build a college. You know how much you'll be getting for $70,000. What were those estimates? $150,000 for the buildings alone, without counting either the land or the furniture. What's the matter with them? You've seen those buildings. Do you think the towers would aspire for the Presbyterians? Take off $20,000 for whatever you don't like. You'll say $50,000. What's the matter? Did you just come to listen?
That's all I came for.
$50,000. I'm ashamed to mention it. Doctor, you'll give me $50,000?
I tell you, all I want is to find out what these things bring. I may want to sell my own place sometime.
Gentle, this is a serious occasion. Honest human labor went into these buildings, into the walls and on the roofs and up on those towers. And brains and excellent planning and heartache went into the building of them. I am not being flippant when I say $40,000 is an outrageous price to sell them for. Do I hear $50,000? Is $40,000 your final word? They're going for $40,000, going for $40,000. Sold!
Graduation day.
This is Antioch College still, the same as we have known and loved heretofore. But according to the doctrine of metempsychosis, it is by the transmigration of the old soul into a new body. The old body with its works, that is, with its scholarships and its debts, its promises to pay without paying, and its vestments of liberty without liberty is dead. And in its stead we have the resurrection of a new and glorified body, a body without debts or trespasses of any kind. And so, young ladies and gentlemen of the graduating class, after journeying together for so many years on our passage through life, we are about to part. Another day, another hour, and we separate. Would to God I could continue this journey with you through all its future course. When I think after the experience of one life what I could and would do more and better than I have done, I feel the phoenix spirit glowing within me. But alas, that cannot be. While the phoenix spirit burns within, the body becomes ashes. I cannot go with you, but I can enshrine my spirit in your hearts, so that when I fall in the ranks, you may pursue the conflict and win the victory. This transference of my enthusiasm of the results of all my experience and study into your young and athletic frames is what I desire to do, and what, as far as my enfeebled strength allows, I have attempted to do. In the infinitely noble battle in which you are engaged against error and wrong, if ever repulsed or stricken down, may you always be solaced and cheered by the exulting cry of triumph over some abuse in the church or state, some vice or folly in society, some false opinion or cruelty or guilt you have overcome. And I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity.
Very glad you came. We hope those who are new to the campus will walk around and see the beauty of which we've been speaking. Thank you so much.
Well, a little hammy, but that's old-fashioned. I know. Those days, they